Thanks, Christy, and thanks to RU for the opportunity as well. Vertical Events for the opportunity as well. And yes, it was an interesting article this morning about copper, and I'll talk a little bit about copper during my presentation today, but it's obviously going to get a lot tighter. The vehicle industry has invested around 12 to 14 trillion in setting up assembly lines for lithium batteries, and obviously the copper involved has already been talked about by Alltech, but it's also about the recharging networks that are required for the power consumption, the power to conduct the actual electricity in and out of the batteries. So copper is going to be a very important part of this, if you like, electrical future. So we've got an IOCG up in the Northern Territory, and I'll quickly talk about how it came about, what we've done on it. We've worked very hard. We've got to a pre-feasibility study, and I want to show you what that means for us. There's also gold there. We produce about $100 million worth of gold a year as well, which is a great little bonus. You can see we're not a big company now, 15 million or thereabouts in market cap, but the key to our company is that we will produce downstream critical minerals: gold, copper, cobalt and magnetite. The copper and the cobalt is obviously a critical mineral here. Copper is not a critical mineral in Australia yet, but it is practically everywhere else in the world. And the rest of the world is stealing a bit of a march on what's happening with copper. So obviously we're working towards a sustainable development for the future, but the key for us is what metal are we getting, what are we getting out, and who can we sell it to? And the answer is our market opens up substantially when you start talking about 99% copper and a usable cobalt product that can literally almost go into batteries in the form that we sell it in. I'll play a quick video which will cover over on our last 3 years of developing this asset to where it is now. We're located in the centre of the Northern Territory. We're about 1,000 kilometres south of Darwin and 400 kilometres north of Alice Springs. We have rail, we have the Stuart Highway, and we have the APN natural gas pipeline running 40 kilometres from our project. We've drilled about 90,000 metres on this particular project, and we have come up with, I might humbly say, what are probably as good or better than anything that's been drilled in this country for the last 5 years. And I've got the assays and the intercepts to prove it. So we've put together, you're looking there at the entire deposit of ore. As I said, the iron ore hosts the deposit. And our mine really is quite simple: 25-metre intervals, 40-metre stopes. We're not reinventing underground mining. This is practically what every underground gold mine in WA does. And clearly we are looking to expand on what we have in our resource, both at depth and to the east. And there's plenty more prospectivity for us there. So that total revenue of 2 billion on a 500,000 tonne per annum mining and processing project, that's all because of downstream pressure oxidation and electro-winning of the metal at the end of the process. You can see there, as I said, 500,000 tonnes goes into the plant and works its way through the crushers. We have an autoclave on site, electro-winning of copper in that green shed, and cobalt down there to the right, and then a CIL gold room at the back. Again, we are producing gold doré, 99% copper, 99% cobalt, and a 96.5 magnetite product that is used in coal cleansing around the world. The magnetite product that we'll produce has already been sold by another company into India, and that sort of leads us to where I'm going with my discussion today. So again, I'll move quickly through this. We have plenty of infrastructure. We have a commercial airport as well as those other things I talked about, railway, highway, natural gas for power if required. We have the Sun Cable solar farm setting up about 230 kilometres to our north, and naturally we're looking at them to supply us with power once they're up and running. So what I've done here is split the revenue. Our 220, 250 million in annual revenue is split up at the prices we used, which was about $17.70 US for gold, $4.25 a pound for copper, 60,000 US a tonne of cobalt, and about 250 US a tonne for that magnetite product. There's been swings and roundabouts, obviously, since we did the PFS. Gold's rallied to 19.20 US, copper's down at 360, 361, up a little bit on the Glencore news that Christy was referring to today. So we have a natural hedge in there. You've seen gold rally, copper come off, and that's a great natural hedge for us to have within our project. Two very good metals. The cobalt and the magnetite are really just a bonus, and I'll be looking to sell streams for those to fund this project. Again, an important part of what I'm talking about today. As I humbly said, you can compare these intercept results that we have drilled and assayed with anything, good or better than anything that's been drilled in this country, certainly in the last 5 years. And happily argue with anyone back at the booth about that this afternoon. Again, we're very much simplifying that mining process for the Rover 1 project. And the key here is that down in that bottom right corner, it's that pressure oxidisation that produces the end user metals. So we are getting inflow calls from all over the world because that is what people are after. We don't need to send it to a smelter as a concentrate. We've got the real stuff. And the Australian government has strongly endorsed this approach, as you would have read. Again, that's just a plan view of a 3D plan view of our plant. Quite a simple operation, only had 500,000 tonnes per year to generate that significant revenue. And I might say, as per the pre-feasibility study, 110 million in free cash per annum. Pretty impressive. The bottom table is probably the one of more interest. As I said, 500,000 tonnes per year is the annual production, and you've got about 30,000 ounces of gold a year, 90 to 100 million in revenues per annum. 7,000 to around 7,500, varies a bit, obviously when we're in different parts of the ore body. On an annual basis, plenty of opportunity around to increase the production of those two elements. And then we've got the cobalt. By producing 300 to 400 tonnes of cobalt a year, we will be 5% of Australia's supply of cobalt. So that really is going to be a great little byproduct kicker for us. And then, as I mentioned, the magnetite product, which we'll sell in India for around about 250 US a tonne. You see the total revenues there, 2 billion. You've got the underlying mine profit after costs of around about 700 million, IRRs of 46%. This is a very profitable and manageable project. So, funding our project. Because we've added the pressure oxidation and the SXEW onto the end of the process, it looks like about 160 million Australian dollars to build the plant. But again, the rewards are enormous. So how do we fund that? As we all know, the stockbrokers have gone underground, the equity market's in an extremely bear market. It may or may not remain like that, but let's have a little bit of a look at what we can do with regard to copper. The Australian government strongly endorsed downstream critical minerals, and I think copper will become a critical mineral in this country. So we got that. We're building downstream processing capacity, which is a major push, as we all know, from this government. Regional processing hub, absolutely. We'll be setting up in Tennant Creek, and we'll be able to draw from potentially other sources of ore from all through the region. We'll be using clean energy. Obviously, Sun Cable will hopefully be providing that for us once they're up and running. And as I'm about to discuss, we're looking to attract overseas capital through what we're doing with our downstream processing. It's to get to really to where we are. I think we're capable of coming up with something just with the pre-feasibility study and the results that we've seen. But here's what we're doing now. We've got some metallurgical test work to do for our bankable feasibility study. We've already submitted our environmental impact statement with the Northern Territory EPA. That's already in and being assessed. And we've commenced numerous discussions with financial institutions and end users of our products to get this project up and developed. Government engagement at both the federal and Northern Territory level has been very consistent and ongoing for at least the last 2.5 years. So we'll get through the bankable feasibility study and get to these permitting and approvals and the construction phase in what is a pretty ambitious timeline there that you see. So, for our friends at Hamlin who are looking for the elephant, we found him, and he's in the room. Talking about copper, and just to put it in perspective, the World Bank, so not a producer or or somebody who's determined to, I guess, stand to benefit from saying something like this. The World Bank down the bottom has said that over the next 23 years, in order to hit our net zero 2050 targets, in the next 23 years, we need to produce as much copper as mankind has produced in the last 5,000 years. So have a little think about that. So the electric planet is depending on that. And some people are calling it a bit of a fantasy dream world, but that's just the facts. And that is to get the electricity out of the batteries, no matter what sort of battery it is, into the use of power, and then obviously be able to take the recharge as well down copper, because it is the only viable conductor that we know of. So the federal government has asked us to go to India and represent downstream critical mineral production. We're a $15 million company. The reason we got asked is because we're one of the only ones doing it. We adopted this strategy 2.5 years ago, and not just because it added $1 billion in revenue to our project, but because it is very much the way to go in which we can, and the work we can do in the Northern Territory to value add, and the government is very focused on it. And we will have these critical minerals produced in Australia, domestic supply chain. So India started a little bit late, started looking for critical minerals in 2019. They've got none. They produced about 550,000 tonnes in 22. They need 3 million tonnes a year by the year 2030. So that's about 15% of global supply, which is currently at about 22 million tonnes per annum. So I don't care how you look at it. And again, I'm over in the booth if you want to tell me different, but there's just not enough copper. Right, so I'll be up in India at the end of November, having discussions with some of the largest conglomerates in the country, and that is public information. You can go and check out that AIBX India website. We're working very hard with the CLC and the traditional owners of the land in which we operate. Like everyone else, we're going to need everyone involved in this community to get this operation up and going, and the development producing the potential that it can. We have numerous other opportunities. You're looking there at our 1,000 square kilometres, right next to our Rover project, which is over on the right, which is the project we're discussing. We are looking for those projects there to feed into that infrastructure. We've got a copper deposit, we have a zinc deposit, again. This is simply adding to what we have. Again, I'm a fan of lithium. We found some lithium and niobium in Western Australia, and again, we are committed to both finding and developing critical minerals. So we're looking at lithium targets. The previous owner spent $2 million doing sampling of about 9,000 samples were taken, and lithium and niobium targets lit up all over this. This is in Western Australia. This is a separate project, and again, we're looking to extract value from that. So in winding up, we're developing Rover 1 to produce $2 billion of revenue a year and downstream precious minerals. We're advancing discussions for the funding of the project from the strong results of our PFS. We've got a large zinc-lead deposit. We have lithium and niobium targets as our grassroots work. And again, we're being strongly endorsed by the federal government in the way we're going about it. So thank you very much.